Take the first question. Here it says that the length of the diagonal of a rectangle is thrice the length of one of its side, and if the area is given to us, we need to find the perimeter of the rectangle, right? This is very easy questions. Let's draw the rectangle. I'm drawing just for the reference so that you can understand the approach which we are following, right? Say this is the length A and this is the width B. So the diagonal's length, say this is A, B, C, D. The diagonal length BD will be equal to under root of A square plus B square. Now this length is given to us as 3 times the length of one of its sides. Let us assume it to be B, right? Suppose this is 3B. So squaring both the sides, we will be getting A square plus B square is equal to 9B square, or A square is equal to 8B square. Taking under root both the sides, so we'll be getting A is equal to 2 root 2 times of B. We have got the relationship between length and the width, right? The other thing is that the area is given. So area would be what? Simply A into B, which will be equal to what? 16 root of 2. So we can substitute the value of A as 2 root 2B here. So it will be 2 root 2 B into B is equal to 16 root of 2. So here it will go by 8. This is B square. So B square is 8. So again the value of B would be 2 root of 2. So we can get the value of A and B. So here the value of A is 2 root 2B and the value of B itself is 2 root 2. So clearly the value of A would be 8 and the value of B is 2 root of 2. So the perimeter is what? 2 times of A plus B, correct? So it will be 2 times of, this is the perimeter which we are calculating. So the perimeter would be 8 plus 2 root of 2. Now we have to compare with the options. None of the options starts with has 2 outside the bracket. So let us take 2 more from here. So we'll be getting 4. It will be 4 plus root of 2 in fact, right? Do we have such option? Yes, we have the option number A. So option A becomes the right answer. Now let us take the next value. So here it's given that there is a triangle AF, which is a right angle triangle, and the value of AE is 4 and the value of EF is 3, right? And the triangle is inscribed inside the square ABCD as shown. We need to find the area of the square. Now to find the area of the square, we need to find the side of the square, right? No angle is given, but this triangle is right angle, so we can quickly identify that this length AF would be equal to 5. But since no angle is given, definitely it will going to be difficult to identify that how would we proceed, how we would proceed ahead. Because even if I take the variables, for example, if I assume this to be say x and y, then I need to take this as a some different variable. So variable wise, we'll be countering 3 or more variables. So let us try the trigonometrical way. Let us assume that this angle is theta. Now, if this angle is theta, this angle is 90 degree. This angle would be what? 90 minus theta, right? Similarly, if this is 90, this is 90 minus theta. So this angle is theta, correct? So now we have to focus on triangle ABE. In this triangle, if you want to focus, then we can say that cos of theta would be base upon hypotenuse. This is the base in this case, right? Because this is the angle which is formed between base and the hypotenuse. So it will be AB, or let me assume the side to be say A, right? Which is A over 4. This is cos of theta, right? Or we can say that the side A would be equal to 4 cos of theta. This is one way wherein we can calculate the side of the square. The same logic let us apply for this portion, say BE. So if I want to find BE, then BE would be what? It would be 4 sine theta. Why so? Because this is perpendicular, this is base, and this is the hypotenuse. So perpendicular would be what? Hypotenuse into sine of theta. So it will be 4 sine of theta. Now again, focusing on this triangle, we need to find this side EC. If you want to find EC, then in this triangle, this is angle theta, this is the base, and this is the hypotenuse given. So this is the base, which will be what? Hypotenuse into the angle which is cos of theta. Now observe that if I add both this, if I add this side and this side, then definitely it will become the side of the square. So addition of these two, that is 4 sine theta plus 3 cos of theta, should be equal to the side BC. Now the side BC is nothing but what? Side of the square, because that will be equal to A. And A, we already know, is nothing but 4 cos of theta. So clearly from here we can see that 4 sine of theta is equal to cos of theta. Or if I divide by cos of theta, then tan of theta is equal to 1 by 4. We have got tan of theta, correct? So the area of this square would be what? A square, which is nothing but what? 4 cos theta whole square, which is nothing but 16 cos square theta. Now tan theta is known, so cos theta can easily be identified, right? This is perpendicular over base. So cos theta would be what? Base over hypotenuse. So base is what? 4, and hypotenuse would be under root of 1 square plus 4 square, which comes out to be 4 by 70, right? So we can just substitute here. So it will be 16 into 4 by 17 whole square, under root of whole square. So this will be 16 into 16 divided by 17. This will be the answer. I think the option need to be changed. Here it is 16 square divided by 17. So option B becomes the right answer. Now the third question says that if the square is circumscribed by a circle of radius 100 centimeters, then what is the approximate perimeter? So we have to draw a circle, and within this circle there is a square which is inscribed. This is what the question is saying, right? If this is a square, then definitely the diagonal of the square will become the diameter of the square, and this is the center of the square, which is midpoint of the diagonal, correct? Now if this is a square, then these are the sides say A, then the diagonal and the diameter both will be A root of 2. So the radius would be A divided by root of 2, correct? This radius given to us is 100. So the value of A is what? 100 root of 2. So we have got the side, so definitely the perimeter will be 4 times of it. So perimeter would be 4 of A, which will be 400 root of 2. On calculation, by putting the value of root of 2 as 1.414, etc., we'll be getting option C. Now in this question, it say that the square ABCD has a side length 13. So this is 13, this is 13, this is 13, and this is 13, correct? Now E and F are the exterior points on the square such that BE and DF, BE and DF both are equal to 5, and the other sides are 12. So obviously this will be 90 degrees. Why so? Because 12, 5, 13, they form a triplet, or they basically follow Pythagoras theorem. That is 5 square plus 12 square is actually equal to 13 square. So definitely these triangles are right angle triangle. And we need to find the length of EF. We need to find this length, right? That's quite complicated if we work from the given figure only, right? We have to make some changes so that the EF becomes some well-known linear dimension, right? So what we will be doing is that we will extend EB like this. Similarly, we'll extend FC like this, correct? We'll extend EA like this. We'll extend BD like this. This will form 90 degrees. Now the obvious question would be why? So let me prove it. Let us assume that this angle is theta. This is 90. So in this triangle, this much portion would be 90 minus theta, right? Because sum of all the angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. Now this is 90 degree because ABCD is a square, correct? BE has been extended, so this is a straight line, right? Let me assume that this is say FG, and say this is point H. So BE, EB when extended meet the extension of FC at point say G. Now here again this entire thing is 180 degrees, so this is 90 minus theta, this is 90, so this has to be theta, right? Now if this is theta and this is 90, these two triangles are anyway congruent, so this angle has to be equal to this angle because they are congruent. So this is theta, this is 90, so again this will become what? 90 minus theta. So if this is theta, this is 90 minus theta, so this has to be 90 degrees. From the same logic, we can say this too has to be 90 degrees. So we see 4 triangles which are basically encircling this square. All are congruent. This triangle, this triangle, this triangle, and this triangle all are congruent. That means all have the side of length 12, 5, and 13. We can easily prove it by RHS, right? For example, if I want to prove these two, then these two triangles are what? Similar triangles because two angles are equal, right? And one of the side is 13 here. The corresponding side is also 13 here. So the other two sides will be correspondingly 12 and 5. The same logic we can apply here. So what we have done here is that this is 90, this is 90, this is 90, and this is 90, and all these sides 12 plus 5 this is nothing but 17. All these sides are 70, as you can see, correct? So this forms a square. EGFH, this also forms a square wherein FE or EF is nothing but the diagonal of this square. The side of the square is what? 17. So the diagonal will become 17 root of 2, correct? We need to find the square of it. So obviously 17 square into 2 we have to find. On calculation, I'll be getting it as 578. So this will become the answer. Now let's take the fifth question. Here it says that an equilateral triangle ABC of side 40 centimeters and it is cut into two pieces. So first of all, let us draw the equilateral triangle like this. The length is 40 centimeters. So each one of them will be 40 centimeters, right? Further, it says that it is cut into two pieces such that one of the piece is equilateral triangle with vertex A. So it would have been cut like this, right? So that it becomes the equilateral triangle. So let us assume that this is the cut and this equilateral triangle has side A. So obviously, this much portion will have side 40 minus A. Fine. Further, it says that the trapezium so formed, two such trapeziums are placed beside each other to form a parallelogram. So this is one of the trapezium and one more trapezium is put such that they form a parallelogram. So this is one and this is the second trapezium. So this becomes the parallelogram as you can see. This entire thing will become the parallelogram, right? So since this is just a mirror image or the exact same trapezium, so this length would be this length, right? And this entire length would be 40 and this length would be this length, right? Which is 40 minus 8. Now if I add all these boundary, then this is 40 minus a. We have to find the perimeter, right? So 40 minus a plus this is a plus 40. So it will be 40 plus a plus this is 40 minus a. Again, this is 40 plus a. So we observe that a will get cancelled with this. We'll be left with 40 4 times. So 40 into 4 will give me 160. So option B becomes the right answer. Now the sixth question is interesting one. Here it says that a farmer has decided to build a wire fence along one straight side of his property. For this, he planned to place several fence posts at 6-meter intervals. So the interval will be 6 meter between any two posts, right? With posts fixed at both the ends of the side. So before we proceed, we need to understand one thing. For example, suppose there is a 3-meter wire length, right? And we have to make a interval. We have to post an interval in every 2 meters. So what will happen is that we'll be putting one from the start and one at the end, right? And since this entire length is 3 meters, so obviously if I count the number of poles, then it has to be 4, right? And the interval is 2. So here we need to observe one thing. If I just count the number of intervals, so it will be 1, 2 and 3. But if I count the number of poles, then it is 4. So number of poles will always be one more than the number of intervals. Why so? Because we are starting with one of the pole, right? So obviously this pole has to be counted. Then after every interval we have one pole. Then after every interval we have one pole. After every interval we have one pole. So obviously number of interval will be one less than the number of pole, or we can say that number of pole will always be one more than the number of interval, right? Okay, moving ahead. So here it says that after he bought the post and wire, he found that the number of posts he had bought was 5 less than the required when he's making or putting the post in 6-meter interval. So let us assume that the interval is say or the length of the wire is x and the number of pole is y, right? So definitely the number of intervals, if I want to find, then from this logic we can say that after every 6 meter there is one pole been put. So number of intervals would be what? X divided by 6. But if I want to find the number of poles, I have to add 1. And that must be equal to what? The number of poles. Here the number of poles was 5 less than the required. He bought Y. So definitely it should be 5 plus Y. Then only he is 5 short of the number of poles which he bought. So this is the first equation. Similarly, here it says that had he changed his plan and made the space 8 meters apart than the length of the side of his property, then he discovered that the number of posts he bought would be just sufficient. That means if the interval is for 8 meters, that means if x divided by 8, this will be the number of interval plus 1 will be the number of poles. This is exactly the number of poles which he bought. So this is equation number 2. So in this case, we have to solve this equation 1 and 2 to get to the answer. On solving, we'll be getting the option D as the answer. Now let's take 7th question. It's a very easy question. We have been given the diagonals of the rhombus. We know that the diagonal, they bisect at 90 degrees. And we need to find the length of one of the sides. So if you can just draw one rhombus like this, as per the property, the diagonal will bisect each other at 90 degrees, right? So say this length is 32, this will be 16, this will be 16, this will be 12, and this will be 12, right? This is 90 degrees. So obviously applying Pythagoras theorem here, we can get one of the side. So the side would be what? 12 square plus 16 square. This will be the side, right? So on solving, I think this will be 144 plus this will be 256. So I think this should be 400, right? Or 20. So 20 becomes the answer for this question. Very, very easy question. Anybody can solve it, right? Let's move to the last question. Here it says that the measure of the angle of a kite is this much. What is the half measure of one of the congruent pair of the angle in a kite? So if I draw a kite, then this is how the kite looks like, correct? These two sides are equal, these two sides are equal, and in kite what happens is that the diagonal, the larger diagonal bisects the smaller diagonal at 90 degrees, correct? So these two sides are these two lengths are also equal. Further, the angles are given, so obviously adding all of them, what do I get? This is 7 plus 8 is 15 plus 5 is 20 plus 9 is 29, so 29x, right? Here it is 9 plus 45 is 54 minus 13, so effectively it is 41. This would be equal to what? 360 degrees, correct? So we have to get 360 minus 41, which comes out to be 29 of x, which is 319 degrees. So the value of x would be divided by 29, which is 11 degrees. So let us find all the angles. So 7x plus 9. So 7 into 11 is 77 plus 9 will give me 86 degrees. This is 8 into 11, so it is 88 degrees. This is 5x. 5x is 55 plus 45 will give me 100 degrees, right? And here it is 9x. 9x is 99 minus 13 will give me 86 degrees. So these are the two concurrent in the sense the same angle, and we need to find half of it. So the answer should be 86 divided by 2, which is 43 degrees. So option C becomes the right answer.